Dragon Ball Super Reborn Summary. This story is a fanfic about Dragon Ball and having a system in the Dragon Ball world which has been done countless times. What's one more to the pile? The main character will go through the Dragon Ball timeline, but due to him coming into the world, the timeline fractures, causing timelines to merge and bleed into one another. An example would be that both Z Broly and Super Broly will exist at the same time, but with minor alterations to suit the narrative, which would not have them be on the same planets but have them parallel. Dragon Ball Superhero will also be introduced into the story as well, but at later times. Hope you folks enjoy the content. Since this is my first novel, I have written without the help of AI. Wish me luck. Chapter 1, New Beginnings. The story opens up with a normal salaryman named Enzo Long and his mundane life, dealing with the work grind that hated but needed to sustain his subpar life. The thing Enzo desires the most is to leave this world and not be bored dealing with work troubles, family obligations, and blind dates he doesn't want to go to or participate in. Enzo thinks to himself as he walks to the train to go home, if only I could be in another world where I can be myself and be more free. I would preferably want to be in the Dragon Ball world. Imagine how cool that would be. Enzo sighs, realizing how ridiculous he sounds and how his wish would never come true. Then as the train approached the station, Enzo sees a little boy playing by the track with the child's parents not paying attention. Enzo panicked as he noticed the boy was about to fall into the tracks. Without realizing that his body had already moved, he grabbed the boy and pulled him back, but he slipped as the train barreled, crashing into him as everything went dark. Enzo was in a dark space, feeling weightless, as he then hears a voice in his head say, "For your selfless determination and act of kindness you desire shall be granted, you will be sent to the world you most desire." Enzo, baffled at the words, blanks out for a second as he then wakes up in a bed, in a room he doesn't recognize, as he then notices that his body is smaller than before, around 4 feet or so. He walks over the window of the room, which looks advanced with technology he had never seen before, as he stares out the window, seeing people flying and wearing armor only seen on Frieza and Saiyan forces. Enzo says to himself, "This can't be real. 1 minute I saved someone at the cost of my life, now I'm on planet Vegeta. I must be dreaming." As he comes to that realization, he then punches himself, actually feeling the pain with some blood coming out from his mouth. Enzo says aloud to himself, that hurt. This isn't a dream, and man, does that hurt. Even in my past life I don't think I could have ever hit that hard as a full-grown adult." Enzo then notices that he has a tail, and while he is looking at it, he sees a mirror. As he walks up to it, he looks at his new face for the first time. He notices that his hair isn't the prominent black like most Saiyans have, but his hair was more black with white accents, making him wild and crazy. His body is young, around 10 or so, with no accurate estimate, with a lean body with room to grow. He then noticed a scouter on the nightstand next to his bed as he walked over to it and put it on, then walked back to the mirror to try it out. Enzo then looks into the mirror and pushes the button, saying, "Let's see my power level, hope it's high." As the scouter turns on, a set of numbers read across the screen, and Enzo is surprised that he can actually read it. The scouter shows the following: power level 1000. Enzo, feeling sad that his power level was only 1000, realized that even if he were classed as a low-class Saiyan, he was still stronger than most, and training could help him improve along with other boosts. Enzo then, as the realization hit him that he could potentially make himself stronger, a wave of memories hit his brain all at once as he exclaimed, screaming in pain, God, my head, I know this is what happens when you transmigrate, but why does it have to be so painful? Couldn't it have been done more gently?" Enzo then fell to one knee after getting the memories of the body he was in, firstly with a name, it being Daiko, and no last name since Saiyans don't have them. Enzo says to himself, "Well, at least I know the name of my new body, or the new me." He chuckles as he then sees his scouter blinking as it is receiving a message from the comms. Daiko pushes the button to answer it as he hears, "Daiko, you are to report to the pod area. Your team is waiting for you and time of departure is coming up. Arrive to the pods within half an hour." Enzo, now Daiko, looks to the scouter thinking, "Seems I had a mission to do off-world, but I need to find out what date it is just in case this is pre-planet Vegeta blowing up from Frieza. I can escape early and not deal with the hassle." Daiko then looked around the room, seeing a calendar was in the room, and moving to look at it was the year 736, a year before Frieza blows up the planet, giving him time to train a bit off-planet. Enzo, now accepting his new life, had one goal in mind: to be strong enough to survive in the Dragon Ball world. As Enzo, now Daiko, accepts who he was with both live accepted, he hears a mechanical voice in his head.
Enzo says in surprise, "What is that noise? Am I hearing thing after the memory dump?"
The mechanical voice chimed again saying, "System initializing 3, 2, 1, success, new host recognized, hello host, I am the power leveling system delegated to this world." Daiko confused on how he received a system thinking, "I know this is standard and all, but don't you usually need to meet a requirement to unlock a system?" The system interjected saying, "Host, your perquisites were met when you accepted the fact that you will belong in this world with your body and soul in sync." Daiko then realizing that just accepting the fact that this new life of his was permanent, he then obtained a system as a bonus. Daiko then asked the system with excitement, "Okay system, can you show me a panel of my stats or something that can help me to better understand how I can improve moving forward?" The system then retorts by saying to Daiko, "Of course, host, he is your status panel." As the system finishes saying that, the panel comes to life in front of Daiko's eyes as he then notices only, he can see it with it not reflecting in the mirror like a real object. It read as follows: Host, name Daiko, former name Enzo, age, 8 years old, power level, 1000, class, low class warrior, can move up to middle class with bonus to power level gains with advancement, current skills. Basic key charge, beginner 10% out of 100, can be evolved, basic key blast, beginner 5% out of 100, can be evolved, flight, beginner, 15% out of 100, can be evolved, basic key sense, beginner, 10% out of 100, can be evolved, key manipulation, beginner, 10% out of 100, can be evolved, martial comprehension, beginner, 10% out of 100, can be evolved. Fractured timeline adept, beginner, 10% out of 100, can be evolved. Daiko looks at the panel as he understands most of the skills he has, since the system just feeds the knowledge into his head, including his general knowledge from his other world supplementing him. However, Daiko looked at one skill in particular, asking the system, "What is Fractured Timeline Adept and what does it do?" The system then replies to Daiko's question saying to him, "Host, this skill has been created by the system as a way to detect fractured timelines because it seems that the host isn't in the original Dragon Ball world but one similar with other timelines bleeding into the world, making most people in the world a bit stronger." Daiko scratches his head saying, "Okay, I kind of get the whole fractured timeline, possibly a butterfly effect from my arrival, but how much stronger will this Dragon Ball world be compared to the original?" The system ponders for a moment as it calculates the amount of increase, saying, "About 20% more than usual. So for instance, from your memory, you know Raditz to have a power level of 1500, it would become 1800. Daiko looked shocked, saying aloud, "That may not be a lot for someone like Raditz, but for Frieza it would be scary for him, having a power level 530,000 to 636,000. Daiko shivered knowing that Frieza before the fracture was tough to beat, but now with a higher base this could make killing him harder. Daiko now ponders on what to do with this information as he remembers that he has to be at the pods for the meetup as he puts on his black and white battle armor, running out of the room flying towards the pod's landing zone. As he drops down in front of the pod landing zone, he sees a group of scions, 4 male scions, one being the man whose voice he over the scouter calms, seeming to be an older scion, possibly an instructor of sorts, then followed by a taller scion boy with a darker complexion, blackish hair with pink and purple in it, with purple and pink eyes, not a typical scion eye color, while having bigger build, looking to be 5 or so years older than him, and another scion standing next to him with a leaner and more agile build with a more fair complexion, but being a bit taller than Daiko while seeming to be about maybe 1 or 2 years older than him, with blackish green hair and red eyes, which was unusual for scions. Lastly, was another male scion, average looking but feeling strong a bit more so than Daiko, with a scowl on his face, noticing him looking at Daiko with some hostility. Daiko noticed the hostility as he then lands with the group all staring at Daiko as he approached. Meanwhile, Daiko tried to figure out if these guys were to be friends or foes. Chapter 2, Meeting New Allies? Daiko then approached the group as he sized them up, coming to know their names before recalling his memories. The oldest one being Doram, the instructor being a low-class scion as well with a power level of 3000, which was as strong as Nappa. The oldest boy seeming to be around 16 or so named Hirudan, a pure blood and low-class scion, but in the middle nearing middle-class scion who hates low-class scions like Daiko due to how weak they were. Then the second oldest boy being Zarek, looking to be around 14 or so, a scion hybrid from what Daiko's memories can remember, with him being shunned because he was a hybrid. He was subjected to trials making him have DNA spliced with Majin DNA to make him strong, something Frieza wanted to try to improve himself with but failed as they saw Zarek as a failure to discard back to the scions. Next, was the third oldest boy. Cairo was around 10 or 11 years old in age, seeming to also be a hybrid, but unlike Zarek he was part Cerealian, his father being a scion who went to the Cerealian planet and had him with his Cerealian mother before bringing him to planet Vegeta for training, which gave him the red eyes and greenish-black hair. Dorum then spots Daiko and waved to him saying, "Come now Daiko, you're going to be late, your squad was waiting for you, hurry up, you have to leave." As Dorum says this to Daiko, which caused Hiruden to say in a deep faint voice but still audible to the whole group, "Why bring him, he is so weak, I could oversee this mission myself, why should I babysit a weak scion?"
As Daiko thinks to himself, "System, what's his power level?" The system replies, "One moment, host."
His power level seems to be 2200, which is the middle of the low-class scion caste but still higher than most. Daiko scoffs, as he then says to Hiruden, "Seems that your manners are still bad, isn't it sad that your power is only 2200 when being only 16 years old, it's kind of embarrassing." Hiruden, angered by what Daiko said, wanted to attack him for the insult, but two figures being Zarek and Cairo stepped in front of him saying, "You seem quick to anger Hiruden," says Zarek as Cairo retorts saying to Hiruden, "Watch how you conduct yourself. You act tough in front of the weak but weak in front of the truly powerful." Hiruden, staring down both Zarek and Cairo, then flares his ki saying, "Move or I'll take care of both of you first." Zarek scoffs as well as Cairo does as their individual keys flare, roaring past Hiruden's own.
Daiko, stunned, say to the system, "What are their power levels?"
The system replies, "Host, Zarek's power level is around 4000, nearing middle class, and Cairo's power level is about 3200 respectively." Hiruden stepped back as he felt both keys converge on him, leaving him angered as he says to them, "Damn hybrids, I'll get stronger than both of you and teach you a lesson." Zarek smirks, saying to him, "It will take you years, and even then, it's not like we won't get stronger as well, you stupid fool." Cairo adds saying, "Zarek is right, you can't beat us now, and with how slow you progress, a few centuries might be needed for you to get stronger if you could live long enough without dying first." Dorum steps in and separates the teens, even though two of them are stronger than him, his authority making it so they listen to him as he says, "Enough, I don't care about petty squabbles amongst yourself, but you have a mission to complete now, get moving, the pods are ready to launch." The boys, realizing they have to go, as Hiruden, still angrily, walked off in the direction of his pod as the rest followed. Daiko says to both Zarek and Cairo, "Thanks for that, I don't know what his problem is, but it seems he hates me even though we all are low-class scions." Cairo looks at Daiko as Zarek laughs, patting him on the back saying, "Don't worry about the stick in the mud over there, he is just mad that he has to go on a mission with us is all, don't worry about him, he won't cause trouble." Cairo then says, willing to add to Zarek's comment, "He is older than us but acts like a child, it's rather embarrassing, and if he does get out of line, we can always do away with him." Cairo's eyes narrowing as he looks towards Hiruden in the distance getting into his pods, as Zarek pats his should saying, "I get the feeling, but let's not remove him yet, we don't know what we will find on the planet we are headed to, better to have him as cannon fodder than not." Zarek smirks sadistically, showing off his mage inside a bit, while Daiko notices them walking to the pods and follows. He asks the system, "Do you have any knowledge on the current mission we are going to?" The system replies saying, "Host, you are headed to a planet known for its technological advance, which seems to be higher than Frisia Force. Is possible the reason you're going it to wipe out the civilization and retrieve the tech for Frisia?" Daiko frowned at the system's answer as he stepped into his pod, making eye contact with Zarek and Cairo as they entered their pods as well. Daiko thinks to himself as the pods closes, "Seems Frisia had plans for the technology, but maybe we can utilize it, he will be too busy dealing with planet Vegeta by then hopefully." Daiko then rests as the pod begins to descend into space as it heads to the location of the mission. Daiko asks the system, "When will we arrive on the target planets?" The voice of the pod responded in a monotoned voice, "Your arrival time will be in 7 days." Daiko thinks about the time frame and asks the system, "What are your functions and how can you help me?" The system ponders as it then says to Daiko, "As the power leveling system, my goal is to increase your power, which can be done by increasing your power level by 1 point every second, which is currently locked until you reach Earth as early as possible, by absorbing power levels from enemies and fighting long periods based on percentages, or by completing missions issued by the system when they become available." Daiko's eyes widen as he thinks, "Well, this system isn't broken at all, but I am a person ice guide, so yeah, this isn't bad at all." Daiko then asks, "Can meditation and fighting battle in the mind improve my power level?" The system replies saying, "Yes, it is possible and will give you a flat increase of 5% for every hour of meditation completed."
Daiko then says to the system, will those around me gain the effects as well or not?
The system then says to Daiko, yes, they can, but at the host's discretion. If you do not want one to receive the boost, you can choose to not give them access, but all power will be 1/10 of yours. For example, if you were to gain 10 power level after 10 seconds, they would receive only 1 power level. Daiko then says to himself, that's good for that fact that Hirodin will not leech off my system bonuses, and the mitigation is fine for Zarek and Cairo, they wouldn't mind the power boost. Daiko chuckles, thinking of how excited they may feel after finding out, but wanting to wait on telling them even if they helped him, wanting to build more trust first. Daiko then relaxed in the chair in the pod as he went into stasis until he arrived on the planet, wondering if he could improve by then in 1 year time limit. Chapter 3, Touchdown on Xandor's. As time moved forward, Daiko received a notification from the pod saying, we will arrive soon, estimated arrival time and descent 1 hour. Daiko stretches and relaxes as he then uses the communication functions of the pod to speak with Zarek and Cairo, asking, hey guys, do we have any general information on the planet or its inhabitants at all? From what I gathered, they are smart and have very important tech that Frisia wants badly. Zarek responded over the comms saying, hey, have a strong leader, and his name seems to be Canpas and his power was detected to be about 3000, but it's hard to say if they have tech that can amplify them when it comes to power level. Cairo also responded saying, they are smart and cunning, what we need to do is probably survey things first. If we don't have to kill them all, that's better, unless they are hostile. Hirodin says angry over the comms, you guys are scared, you stay back with the pods, when we touch down I'll handle this whole planet. Daiko scoffs saying back, I said before, you are embarrassing and you'll probably get killed, but be my guest if you want to die first. Zarek laughs over the comms, good one Daiko, he got you Hirodin, anyway like Cairo said, better safe than dead, so we survey first, got it. Hirodin pissed says back, who put you in charge Zarek, you think you're a leader? Zarek's voice deepens as he says menacingly to Hirodin, I don't care if you die, but you will not compromise the mission or I'll kill you myself, understand?
Hirodin remained silent after Zarek corrected his stupidity while they finally landed in the northern patch of the planet. As the pods land controlling the descent, Daiko and the group leave their pods, and first thing they notice is that the planet feels heavy in gravity compared to planet Vegeta. Daiko says in his head to the system, what is the gravity here, how high is it? The system takes a moment to analyze the planet and then responds saying, host, the planet is about 25 times more than Earth and about 15 times more than planet Vegeta. Daiko then thinks, training here would be a good idea depending on the technology of the planet if it could replicate the training gravity rooms. Cairo then pressed his scouter, then in moments a sound came from it showing the numbers of the strongest inhabitants on the planet at current. Cairo then said, there seems to be 5 power levels over 2000, with one of them being around 3000, which must be Canpas nearing the south, and 10 others with power levels of 500 to the west and east, both 5 in each direction. Zarek, after hearing what Cairo said, then says to the group, seeing as there are only a few strong ones, Daiko and Hirodin got handle the 5 to the west, and Daiko you go handle the east, Cairo and myself will go to the city, when you're finished meet up with us. Hirodin, looking pissed that he has to take orders, says grumbling, fine, I don't like working in a group anyway. After expressing his opinion, he flies off to the west at a fast speed without saying anything more to the group. Daiko says to Zarek and Cairo, seems if he isn't careful, he might end up dead. Not like that would be a problem. Zarek scoffs saying, like you said before, he is an idiot and rather foolish, but just be careful when you go to your side, we don't know if their technology can make them stronger. Daiko nods, putting his fist out in a fist-bumping position as Zarek and Cairo bump fists with him as he then heads to east as Zarek and Cairo leave to the city. Daiko then asks the system, can you determine if the planet's inhabitants are fighters or just scientists? The system responds quickly to Daiko saying, host, the planet's inhabitants are predominantly scientists. Other than the power levels you scanned earlier, there are no more powerful people on this planet. Daiko thinks to himself, it would be best if they don't fight back. Even though I get stronger from fighting, I don't want to kill them if I can help it, as their tech could benefit us. Daiko's scouter goes off after flying for a bit as he reaches the location of the power level readings, seeing as they separated with 3 on one side and 2 on another. Daiko then says to the system as he hides after landing, watching them, can you determine the leader of the group? The system says to Daiko, yes, host, the leader of the group is the tall man with futuristic armor, his power level being at 580, with the rest seeming like subordinates. Daiko looks, seeing them clearly, they look like truffles but with different skins colors, a blue skin color.
The system then sounds in his head, "Host, first mission has been issued, subdue the enemies, 0 out of 5, you may kill or knock out the enemies. Reward, 5% of each enemy's power level which has been taken down, as well as a skill card for one mundane skill, examples, cooking, hacking, etc." Daiko then decides to charge a ki blast and jumps, aiming for the 4 subordinates as the enemy leader yells, "Intruder, neutralize the threat, no killing." As Daiko hears this, he releases his charged ki blast as it spins in rotations, landing in the group as it explodes, knocking the 4 subordinates back as the leader tries to stand his ground. Daiko notices they have energy detectors similar to Frisia's army as he then drops his power, hiding in the smoke as he chokes out one of the enemies, while the other mistake him for Daiko as they charge what looks like wrist-mounted guns at him, blasting him and the person Daiko was holding. Daiko thinks to himself, is it possible they knew we landed before coming here? They seemed ready for this to happen. The leader, noticing they blasted one of his own, yells angrily at the rest, saying, "Blast him, shoot to kill, we have a man down." Daiko realized when they fire the guns on their wrists the power levels they give off rises to around 700 or 800, with the leader nearing 1000. Daiko, deciding to not play anymore with them, moves faster than the guns can shoot, hitting one of the enemies in the stomach, making him pass out. While that happens, the leader runs and tries to attack Daiko as Daiko then parries his attack and shoulder throws him towards 2 of them, then charging the other, landing a kick to the neck, hearing a snap sound. The leader, angered at how fast his men were getting destroyed, tries to charge his gun and fire at Daiko. Daiko then notices and thinks he needs to come up with a mortar counter, as he puts his hands into a Kamehameha wave stance, charging it as his power level soars, with the enemy scouters showing a power level of 1800. Daiko roars, screaming, "Kamehameha!" Daiko releases the blast as the leader in a panic shoots his wrist gun, reaching 1200 power level, but with the other enemies behind him passed out, not being able to help, his blast clashed with Daiko holding for a moment, then was destroyed. Daiko's Kamehameha surging forward, hitting the leader and the others, killing the 2 out cold and leaving the leader near death with his power level reduced to 100. The system chimes in with a cheerful voice, "Host, congratulations on your first mission success, your rewards are being issued to you." As the system finished telling Daiko this, he feels his power rise, with the scouter showing his growth with the 5% from each, totaling about 129, making his new power level 1129. Daiko's body swells with power, feeling good and refreshed as he walks up to the enemy leader, kneeling as he asks, "Do you have access to your technology or not?" Daiko, noticing the man swaying about to die, as the man then looks up, saying to Daiko, "Intruder, many have come for our technology and many have failed, you will never beat our leader." As the man says this, the light in his eyes goes out and he dies in front of Daiko, still kneeling. While Daiko feels remorse for killing unnecessarily, still, he asks the system, "Do I get the skill card as well?" The system then replies, "Yes, host, here is the card. You may choose any ordinary skill used in everyday life at the highest level as a first-time gift from the system." Daiko, surprised, then thinks, since I can't get the tech from the enemy, I might as well get some tech hacking skills. Daiko holds the card out as he says, "I choose master hacking skills." The system then says, "Of course, host, here you go, good luck on future missions." Daiko then kneels on one knee again from the memory dump, but not as painful as the last time, as the information flows into him, making it so he can hack any kind of technology, foreign or not. Daiko smirks after receiving the skill, saying to himself, "Guess I need to test this skill out, don't I?" As Daiko thinks this, he walks up to the outpost where the men were stationed, finding a terminal as he tries to hack it and gain some kind of knowledge about the tech he's looking for on the planet. Chapter 4, New Knowledge. As Daiko hacked into the computer systems, he later found that the technology the planet had was able to improve the battle powers of the inhabitants by 20% overall, and some having 30 to 50% increase in power level, which was insane, meaning that this planet, which was a low-level planet, became a medium-level planet after the technology advancement. To break down planet levels, it would be, for example, like Earth being considered a low-level planet because the lack high power levels, and most being around single to double-digit power levels, and the technology being low-level as well. This planet Xandors that Daiko and his group were on was considered a newly established medium-level planet because they have a 3 to 4 digit power levels, with some being around 500 and some being in the lower thousands. Daiko also saw that they had a training room similar to the one Dr. Briefs had created, but with better utility, and a healing field which uses energy in the air to help the person using it heal over time, allowing them to train for longer. Daiko now thinking to himself, this technology is useful and we can make do with it, helping us improve more.
Daiko then buckled as the information slammed into his head as if someone was carving the knowledge into his head with a hot knife. Daiko then stood back up wobbling but feeling like having this knowledge would help later, and just before he left, he hacked into the system terminal and deleted all the files from the main database so Frisia and anyone else couldn't get the information he had now. Meanwhile, as Daiko was wrapping up the work near the terminals, Cairo and Zarek were making their way to the main facilities on the planet, as then managed to cloaks hiding themselves among the crowds of people walking to the high power levels, keeping their powers levels low. Zarek says to Cairo, seems both Hiradin and Daiko managed to get rid of the two groups, with Daiko seeming to be a bit stronger. His original power was 1000, now it's at 1029, seems he got stronger after his fight. Cairo nods saying, it would seem so, and with all likelihood he managed to get some useful info, but what about Hiradin, did he get any stronger or was it just Daiko? Zarek replied saying, only Daiko and Hiradin is still at the same power level, no change, seems that Daiko may be unique like as possible or something else. Cairo smirked saying, well, whatever it is we can ask late, seems we are about to reach the highest power level here, but the others seem to be in that massive building, what do you want to do? As Cairo says this, Zarek and himself find themselves at a large technology building soaring into the sky with them sensing the high power levels inside. Zarek says as he looks at the tower, we shouldn't fly up, who knows if they have security on the outside, might as well work our way up. Zarek and Cairo then enter the building as they are then stopped by the security as the guard says, you can't enter without an appointment, you need to leave the premises. As the guard presses his hand against Zarek's chest as Zarek then grabs his hand, putting pressure on it, almost breaking it, as Zarek says with grin, we are special guests here to see your leader, so if you would be so kind as to tell him to come down, that would be nice. The other guards, noticing that Zarek was about to break their fellow guards, had they pulled out their shock batons ready to attack. Then moment after, Cairo moved so fast as he shot out precise energy bullets, knocking out each guard except the one that was in Zarek's grip. Zarek smirked as he says, that was fast, did you kill them or knock them out? Cairo says to him in reply, I just knocked them out, they don't have to die unless they provoke us, and their power levels are a measly 10 power level, hardly worth the effort of killing. Cairo scoffs as he then notices that the scouter he was wearing was going off, showing 2 power levels around 2000 moving to their position. Cairo then says to Zarek, we have incoming, seems they noticed the spike in power, probably the tech they have or something, get ready. Zarek smiles as he throws the guard toward the desk, with the receptionist scared as she runs off, while 2 combat soldiers run in aiming their wrist-mounted guns at Zarek and Cairo, saying to them, don't move by the authority of High Leader Can POS, you are to surrender and come willingly or be eliminated. Zarek looks to Cairo as he laughs at the soldiers as his eyes give off a colder feeling, making the soldiers shiver, as he then says to them, tell your leader to come down and you won't have to die, how does that sound? As Cairo says right after, best you guys listen, because if you don't then you won't last long. The 2 soldiers, angered by Zarek and Cairo's words, say in response, since you do not wish to surrender then you will be eliminated as hostiles to planet Xandor's and High Leader Can POS. As the guard finishes saying this, they both charging their guns as their individual power level rises to 2800, surprising both Zarek and Cairo a bit. As Cairo says, seems their powers are amplified by the weapons, but it only seems temporary, which is kind of disappointing. Zarek smirks, saying as he cracks his neck, staring down the 2 soldiers as he says, seems like it, but who cares, I needed a good workout, all the scions on planet Vegeta don't want to fight me anymore, might as well use these guys. Zarek then charges and vanishes behind one of the soldiers as he strikes him in the back with an elbow, making him grunt in pain, making him fall to the floor as the other soldier tries to point his gun at Zarek, but before he could pull the trigger, Cairo struck the other soldier with a fist aimed at his temple as it connects, making him stagger, as Cairo then went on to hit the soldier at each vital point until he fell to his knees near death without receiving any damage. Zarek laughs as he says to Cairo, you're so brutal, I mean I hit them hard but you man just torments them, leaving them near death. As Zarek grabs the Solider from the floor while he is still in pain, then throws him towards the door of the building as the soldier flips around and aims while firing an overcharged shot from his gun, making his power level reach nearly 3000, trying to kill Cairo and Zarek. As Cairo aims to shoot through the soldier's attack, Zarek puts his hand up saying, he's mine, don't touch him. As Zarek charges at the beam, opening his mouth, eating it as he lets out steam from his body while absorbing the power as he points his palm out, launching a blast similar to a Big Bang attack if Daiko was there to see it, that covered the whole room, aimed at the door, blasting, hitting the Solider as he screamed while being vaporized. Cairo then rubs his head, did you have to destroy the front door and most of the main street? Zarek laughs saying, "Sorry, couldn't help it, kind of hard to control myself when I get my bloodlust going." Cairo then shrugs as he then looks down at the remaining soldier as he is about to die saying, "Call your leader now unless you want to suffer more before death." The soldier with barely a breath left presses his earpiece or was wearing as he says, "All units enemies at ground floor, I'd need backup." Just before the reply could be heard, the soldier dies from his injuries as Cairo picks up the communicator as he says, then kicks the body over to the floor. Over the communicator the reply came back, "Units en route report, I repeat, units en route." Cairo replies coldly, "He's dead, so you better hurry before we kill everyone in the building one by one." Cairo then crushes the communicator as he then looks at Zarek, who laughs saying, "You're always so cold, man. Try to have a little fun. That calculating personality is why most Scion women are scared of you, well, except for the ones wanting power and status." Cairo scoffs saying, "Oh, quiet, everything is a game to you anyway. We killed 2 of the 2000 power level fighters, but there are still 3 more as well as Cantoas." Zarek giggles saying, "So what, these guys didn't stand a chance, even the soldiers' last-ditch effort didn't work." Cairo then checks the scouter again, seeing that Hirudin and Daiko were making their way to them, so he then says, "Seem the other 2 are coming, could be a good test for them to handle the other 3 while you and I handle the Cantoas." Zarek then says, "Sure, when they get here should be at the same time as the reinforcements." Cairo nods as he then looks to the floor, UPS seeing the scouter calculator the descent of the reinforcements. Chapter 5, Planet's Strongest. As Cairo and Zarek on ground floor didn't realize they were being monitored from the main room on the top floor where High Leader Canpas was, Canpas smashed the table angry as his towering height of 7 feet made the other 3 soldiers shiver with fear as they fell to one knee, with the group leader saying, "Sir, we are sorry we couldn't prevent the enemies from invading the building. We will try to stop them now." Canpas in a high-tech suit was giving off waves of power, shaking the floor as he then roared saying, "You idiots, didn't you watch as they killed the other 2 without any trouble, and we have lost contact with the other 2 squads, we are going to kill them now." The soldiers stood up in unison as they all said, "Yes, High Leader Canpas." As the soldiers made their way to the ground floor followed by Canpas, Daiko was flying towards the tower where Zarek and Cairo were as his system told him they were fighting and might need help. Daiko then said, "System 2 power levels vanished and 4 more are on the move towards Zarek and Cairo. How long until I make it to them?" The system replies, "At full speed you'll be there in about 5 minutes, but you can reach there faster if you focus your energy on just flying and not hiding your power." Daiko then decided to follow what the system said and managed to get to the tower within 2 minutes, seeing Hirudin show up at the same area as they both went inside the tower, seeing the main part of the entrance destroyed. Hirudin says, scowling at Daiko saying, "Huh, surprised you're alive, trash, thought you would have died." Daiko then replied saying, "Funny coming from a loser like you, your power level hasn't even increased, some Scion you are." Hirudin, angered at what Daiko said, was about to attack him as they heard Zarek angry shout, "Enough, Hirudin, if you get agitated that easily then you can get on your pod and go back. Also Daiko, don't push him, he is pretty sensitive as you can see." Daiko smirked at Zarek's comment as Hirudin's face flushed red, embarrassed then white, feeling the 4 power levels descending onto them. Canpas leads the charge as power radiates off him as his anger overflows with killing intent, making Daiko and the rest well weighted down. The soldiers attacked Daiko and Hirudin because of their weaker power levels as Canpas attacked towards Zarek and Cairo as he then makes his power level rise to 5,000 from 3,000, which was a decent power jump. Zarek then charges at Canpas trying to keep his attention as Cairo then says to him, "Be careful, his power level seems to be related to the suit he is wearing, watch out." Zarek smirks as his power begins to rise as he says back to Cairo, "Sure, I'll be careful, but just support for now, okay? If I need help, jump in." As the soldiers move in to attack Daiko and Hirudin, 2 of the soldiers decide to attack Hirudin as the other comes after Daiko. Cairo notices this as he says to both of them, "Don't worry, I won't let them get close to you, just fight like your life depends on it." As Hirudin says, "You dirty half-breed, I don't need your help, I can handle this by myself." Cairo, feeling his head hurt from the comment Hirudin said, then says, "Fine, if you die that's your problem." Daiko says to Cairo in the moment, "If you can help that would be nice, but be careful, Canpos is stronger than he looks." As Daiko says this, the enemy soldier closes in on him, attacking his Daiko guards with a crossblock, sliding back, feeling pain shoot through his bones. The next moment the system says to him, "Host, new mission alert, defeat enemy soldiers 0 out of 1, reward 5% of the enemy's power level and an EMP grenade." Daiko smirks as he then falls into a fighting stance, saying to the soldier, "Thanks for being my experience points, buddy."
The soldier confused as Daiko vanishes and reappears behind the soldier, but with the soldier's higher senses, he tries to counter Daiko, but an invisible blast hits the soldier, making him stager as Daiko charges a ki blast, making his power level jump to 1608, slamming it into the soldier gut, hurting him as he flies back from the explosion. Daiko turns his head to see Kairo give a small smirk with his fist extended, while Daiko realizes that the attack was similar to Hit's invisible punch. The soldier staggers up, hurt more than he thought, as his power level drops to 1400 as the attack Kairo used targeted a vital point, messing with his ki flow. Daiko, seeing an opportunity, so finish the fight fast, then charges a Kamehameha wave, as Daiko's power keeps rising, reach over 2000, now settling at 2350. The soldier, angered at how he was caught off guard, charged his wrist cannon with his power reaching only 2100 as Daiko and the soldier both roar at each other, with the soldier saying, "Die, you miserable intruder," as Daiko roars back at him screaming, "Kamehameha." As both attacks collide, the shockwave flew in all directions, having it so that every fighter stopped to watch the fight, including Zarek and Kanpios, as Kanpios watches as his soldier dies as Daiko's blast engulfs the soldier's attack, as Daiko does one more final push, making his power level soar to 2500, obliterating the enemy as he disappears. Kanpas roars in rage as his power level spikes again, surpassing his last level, now reaching 6000, making everyone flinch. The moment after, Daiko's system chimes in saying, "Host, you have cleared your mission. Your power level will increase by 5% and you will receive the EMP grenade in the system storage space." As the system finishes speaking, Daiko feels the power in his body increase again, making him snap out of the trace he was in, seeing Kanpas's power increase again as his own power increases again to 1229. Kairo and Zarek snaps out of the trance from the power increase in both Kanpios and Daiko, as they then hear Daiko say, "Kairo, Zarek, catch this and use it." Daiko then takes out the EMP grenade from his pocket connected to his system space, throwing it at Kairo. Kairo catches the grenade, realizing what it is, as he smirks, saying to Daiko, "You shouldn't hold out on us if you have useful items." Daiko rubs his head as he laughs, saying, "Sorry, just remembered I had it, also fighting for my life." Kairo scoffs, saying, "Seriously, don't be so forgetful next time." Zarek turns back, saying to Kairo, "What did he give you? Is it something good?" Kairo shows Zarek the grenade as a grin begins to creep up on Zarek's face, saying, "Oh, this is going to be fun." Chapter 6, Planet Conquest complete. Zarek then coordinated with Kairo to position Kanpios in a way to get him in a viable position for the grenade to be thrown. Daiko then watches as Kairo attacks Kanpios' vitals as Zarek charges in as his power level rises to meet Kanpios nearing 5700. Daiko then hears from the side from one of the other two leftover soldiers saying, "This one seemed strong, but he couldn't last more than a few hits, the weakling." Hiradin on one knee then growls in anger up at the two soldiers, saying, "Trash, you talk big, but the only thing you guys can do is gang up on me to fight." Daiko shakes his head, thinking to himself, "Hiradin is so stupid. It's a strategic advantage to use numbers to overwhelm an enemy. There is no place for one-on-one unless you and the enemy are the only fights around." Daiko then charges at the soldiers, throwing a charged ki blast at them, raising his power level to 1900. The two soldiers notice the blast and try to dodge as one of them gets hit and the other receives some wounds from the blast, as Hiradin grumbles, saying, "Daiko, you little. I don't need your help, leave." Daiko scoffs, looking down at him, saying back, says the guy who is on his knees looking like death will take him at any moment. Hiradin, angered, tries to get up as he falls back to one knee, as he then says, "You're lucky that you go to fight one and not two, now you're going to end up like me." As Hiradin was getting more angered as he speaks, the two soldiers, pissed off at the sneak attack that Daiko did, as they try to attack Daiko, he moved to intercept them as he noticed another invisible attack hit the first enemy, making him crumple to the ground. The other soldier looked back to notice that a dent was made in the armor of his comrade, as he realized too late that Daiko had charged a Kamehameha wave and vanished while reappearing in front of him, shooting the attack out, reaching over 2849. Daiko screamed, "Kamehameha," as the attack engulfed the soldier. He could only scream briefly as he was erased in the energy wave. Kairo smirked, watching Daiko erase the other soldier, leaving one more, saying to Daiko, "Finish off the last one and come help." Daiko pulling back as he hears Kairo's words, then looks at the other soldier as he then charges a ki blast down at the crumpled enemy as he says, "Don't kill me, I was forced to do this, I didn't want to, you have to believe me." Daiko didn't hesitate and releases the blast downward, turning the man into a dark stain on the ground as his body disappeared. The moment after the last soldier died, the system chimed in saying, "Host, Congrats, you completed the special mission and your rewards will be deposited.
Daiko stunned says, what special mission? Why didn't you say anything about it, and what is the reward?
The system replied saying to Daiko, host, this system can only notify you after completing special missions. These might appear at any time. This one in particular was for you to eliminate all remaining soldiers except for Canpos. Your reward is a 10% increase to your power for each soldier killed in this moment and one skill card to be used at any time. Daiko looked surprised as he felt the power flow through his body, saying, wow, I feel amazing and this power is crazy. I'm nearing 2000. As Daiko power increased, his power level increased from 1229 to 1629. Cairo and Zarek stared at Daiko as he killed both of the soldiers in disbelief, both thinking, he got stronger again. He was at 1000 when we came here, now he is at 1629, he is a monster. Canpos seeing that all of his soldiers were dead as he then gets more angered as he releases a higher power reaching 8000, making even one including Zarek and Cairo shake.
Zarek smiling like a battle maniac saying to Canpos, you seems like you finally getting serious, as he then charged at Canpos raising his power level to 7000, still lower than Canpos but enough to hold him off briefly. Daiko saw this and charged a Kamehameha, feeling tried from the constant use as he then roared, firing the attack aimed at Canpos saying, hey, a-hole, take this, Kamehameha. While Daiko's power soared to a staggering 3000 only briefly and the attack flew towards Canpos, Hiruden watched from the floor more angered, seeing that someone weaker than him could bet the guys who hurt him and attack the leader. Canpos attacked Zarek, knocking him back a few feet as Canpos puts his hand out and stops Daiko's attack, crushing it, looking at Daiko with pure hate even more than Hiruden, and that was saying something. Canpos was going to charge at Daiko, but before he could, Zarek grabs him, holding him in place as he yelled at Cairo, do it now, throw it while I have him, I'll be fine. Cairo then nods, activating the grenade as it then lands near Canpos and Zarek as it goes off, making Canpos and Zarek stagger. Canpos roared saying, you, invader scum, how dare you come to my home, attack my people and kill my men, you barbarians. While Canpos said all of this to the group while his suit began to malfunction as his power level was dropping rapidly from 8000 down to nearly 4000, half of what it was, but still not completely weakened yet. Zarek was feeling something, pain from the blast itself, but nothing too serious as he slams Canpos into the group as he then sees a light coming from Canpos. Daiko hears the system say, host, new mission released, defeat High Leader Canpos, reward 5% of his original power level and schematics for the suits they wear including Canpos's. While Daiko revels in the fact that he could soon replicate the armor they wore, Canpos decided to release energy as a last-ditch effort to kill the group, saying, you trash, now you will all die, for planet Xandor's. Daiko and the group were baffled as Canpos started to glow, reminding Daiko of Vegeta's final sacrifice move as Daiko arrived at Cairo and Zarek's side as he says, he is trying to self-destruct, we need to get rid of him now. Zarek and Cairo both looked at Daiko and to themselves as they respond, seems we have to erase him. Zarek replies with a smirk saying, hey Daiko, what was the move you used for that blast, why don't we do that? Daiko then says, you guys want to do a group Kamehameha wave that could work, it would overpower him. Hiruden, barely getting up and walking over, says to them, we have to escape, we don't have time for petty moves. As he then looks at Canpos, who had a crazy look in his eyes as he was about to blow himself up. Hiruden also said to the group, angered, we didn't get the information and we didn't capture this guy, and now you stupid and useless half-breeds want to play games. Cairo scowls, angered, as he shoots an energy beam through Hiruden's chest near his heart. Daiko and Zarek both surprised to see Cairo lash out, say, did you have to practically kill him? As Hiruden's eyes bulge from the pain of have beam blast through him as he grumbles, coughing out bloods, dirty half-breed, you betrayed the Science and almost killed me. Cairo scoffs, looking down at as he kicks him near the door entrance, saying, loser, you only know how to attack the weak and fear the strong, and rather than work together to stop a foe you want single deathmatch, you pathetic even as a pure-blooded scion. Hiruden, angered as he is sent flying, crashes into the ground and passes out as the group does not know if he will survive the injuries as Zarek laughs, saying, Cairo, you crazy SOB, you really did it. I mean, if you didn't, I would have. He was rather annoying. Daiko thus says to them, guys, focus, watch me and follow. Daiko stepped into the middle of them as he began charging the beam as both Cairo and Zarek followed him, perfectly synchronizing the move, as they each say Ka, me, icha. Firing the blast as Cairo blast was greenish-black and Zarek's was purplish-pink, merging into a spiral with Daiko's as the attack charged at Canpos as the collective beam registered at 10,000 power level while Canpos was still trying to blow himself up.
Canpos noticed the attack roaring at him as the power level exceeded his even if his battle armor wasn't damaged as he tried to stop the beam with his own with him saying, "Trash, you think you can beat me, you are all worms." As Canpos fires his wrist cannon which did not completely malfunction as it raised his power level to 6000 still not enough to stop Daiko, Cairo, and Zarek's beam. As the beams clashed Canpos's beam held on for a bit but was overwhelmed as the group's Kamehameha wave charged at him engulfing him while his body was still glowing. Canpos screamed before he disappeared into the blast saying, "You vile intruders, you will never get our knowledge, it dies with me." As a colossal explosion shakes the building as Canpos vanishes from where he stood as the system chimes in saying, "Post-mission complete, your reward will be deposited." Daiko, happy that he got another power increase, feels his power go up as he got more from Canpos because the original power level he had was 3000 but it increased to 4000 as he was fighting Zarek. Daiko felt a rush of power fill his body with his new power level reaching 1829 and the schematics being put into his brain as he stumbled from the pain a bit as he then pats both Cairo and Zarek on the back saying, "Well, we did it, but now we have to go find if there is any leftover information to gather. I found out how they got strong in such a short time." Cairo and Zarek look at him as Cairo smirks saying, "That was a good group effort except for the fool over there, but that move we use, I'll keep that in my back pocket." Zarek replies laughing, "Yeah, that move was so amazing, it was a full release of power, need to use it more often." Chapter 7, Aftermath. After the fight with Canpos, the group hear groaning for the direction where Hiruden fell as Cairo says, "Seems like he is still alive, we need to get rid of him." As Cairo begins to walk over to him with murderous intent as Daiko and Zarek follow. Hiruden, waking up still in pain, sees Cairo tower over him as he feels fear saying, "What are you going to do, you filthy half-breed? You can't kill me, you won't get away with it." Right as Hiruden says that, Daiko's eyes flash as he breaks all their scouters as Zarek and Cairo jolt a bit but throw them to the ground broken. Hiruden, stunned, says, "What are you going to do, don't come any closer." Cairo replies saying, "I don't have to watch." Cairo charges a Kamehameha wave as his power level jumps from 3000 to 3900, nearly double the injured Hiruden. Zarek laughing saying, "Why don't we let Daiko do it, they have to most issues, and if he tries anything funny, we kill him." Cairo squints his eyes but relents saying, "Okay, Daiko, you get rid of him, I don't much care for him, so do what you want." Hiruden think that he escaped death, stand up barely as he yells at the group, "Two dirty half-breeds and a weak pure scion, you'll pay for treating me like this, you traitors." Hiruden's power level was now only 1000 after getting injured, whereas Daiko's was at a new 1829, nearing 2000. Hiruden roared at Daiko saying, "You think just because I'm injured, I can't kill you?" In that moment Hiruden's scion DNA allowed him to break past his limits with his power level reaching 2500 thanks to his anger, but Daiko just looked at him impassively as he says, "Your power may have increased, but it's just a dying flame." Daiko roared as his power level shot to 2829 as he charged a Kamehameha wave as Hiruden, angered, charged a full power wave. Cairo and Zarek standing to the side watch as Cairo says to Zarek, "Who do you think will win?" Zarek laughs, patting his back saying, "It's definitely Daiko who going to win, so what if Hiruden got a power buff doesn't mean much as Daiko has steadily improving this whole time after a couple of battles." Returning the looks back to the fight, both Daiko and Hiruden's power levels soared as they're both roared with Hiruden saying, "Die, you piece of trash, I'm not dying here." As he fires his attack, making his power level reach 3000, something he has never reached before due to his poor potential, as Daiko roars back saying, "You've bullied me, Cairo and Zarek, for the last time, you die, now disappear, Kamehameha." Daiko's anger and attack made his power level soar to near sort of 4000, stunning both Cairo and Zarek as the two beams clashed, shaking the foundation of the building nearing collapse. Both Hiruden and Daiko's beams struggled for a bit, but Daiko pushed more as his attack shattered Hiruden's as the blast engulfed Hiruden as he screamed, "No, I don't want to die, not like this, Daiko, you bastard." As Hiruden disappeared in the Kamehameha wave blast, vanishing from the spot, only leaving a charred spot. Daiko then hits the floor tired and exhausted, saying to Cairo and Zarek, "Why didn't we just kill him before, now I'm out of energy?" As Zarek laughs and Cairo smirks saying, "Well, Zarek said you need to kill him and he did hate you the most, it was just that you weren't strong enough to get rid of him completely." Daiko shrugs saying, "Guess you're right, should we go scout the building and see if there is anything left to get?" Cairo then says, "Why did you break the scouters though?" Daiko says laughing, "Well, it's like this, breaking them will help make it so Frisia's forces can't find us, and the fact that they will never know if we got the information or not." Zarek shrugs saying,
Well, whatever, not like we need them, but it would be cool to get something better. Cairo agrees, saying, good thinking, don't want Frisia catching wind of us not getting him what he wants.
Daiko then hears the system again saying, host special mission completed.
Daiko raises an eyebrow, asking, what mission are you talking about this time, system?
The system says, there was a special mission to get rid of Harridan because his presence has altered the host mental state, making it hard for the host to improve, so his removal was a possible mission. Daiko then says to the system, I was going to get rid of him already, but now I get a reward for it. What is the reward? The system then says, host, you will receive a skill card, an increase in your power level of 10% and schematics to new scouters that are not restricted to normal level rating, reaching in the millions. Daiko's eyes widen, surprised at the news, thinking and saying in reply, okay system, let me get the rewards then. Moments after saying that, Daiko felt both power and pain hit him at the same time, and as his power rose again to 2029 while the knowledge of the new scouters was burned into his brain. As this was going on, Cairo and Zarek turned to Daiko, feeling his power rise again, as Cairo says to Zarek, his power rose again, now he is as strong as one of the soldiers, now it's crazy. Zarek laughs, saying, that's great, he doesn't have any hostility towards and he is getting stronger, may he can be a good sparring partner now. Cairo looks towards Daiko and shrugs, saying, let's hope you don't feel any hostility later. Daiko laughs, saying to Cairo in response, I'm not the type on when it came to people like Harridan, when he disrespects people do I have a problem. Zarek and Cairo smirk and laugh at Daiko's words as they then proceed to go to the top floor where Canpas has his base of operations. Daiko moved to the computer and started to hack it with expert skills, surprising both Cairo and Zarek as they ask, when did you get so talented with computer, seeing as we Scions aren't technologically advanced? Daiko smirks sheepishly as he then says to them, I was always good with computer, but it's hard to show off when you are expected to be a fighter and nothing much else or be shunned for it. Cairo shakes his head, lamenting that fact that most Scions are warrior, with other doing mundane work with not many good with tech. Zarek says right after, at least you didn't show off and get grabbed by Frisia, that would have been a problem. Cairo adds on, saying, he's right, Frisia would have used you like a mule to do all of his tech work. Daiko says to them, well, at least I would never show off my skills anyway. As Daiko explains, he manages to break into Canpas's computer, finding more information on their technology and the armors they wore. Daiko then finds information on a female scientist who created the technology, recognizing that everything was her doing and she seemed to be the smartest on the planet, similar to Bulma on Earth. Daiko then says to them, I got the information for the armors and other tech, also I found out who made the technology, it's a female scientist named Xandra and work in a research center near the tower. Cairo replies saying, so they have someone that advanced her, okay, we should go meet her, but it may be hard since we destroyed most of the people here, could make her wary of us. Zarek laughs, if she isn't wary of us then she must be a stone-cold animal, not afraid of anything. Daiko then has the system download the information into his head again, feeling less pain this time around. As the system chimes in, it appears that the scientist has knowledge of more advanced technology you could use, it would be prudent to seek her out. Daiko responds saying to the system, how much more advanced are we talking about? The system says, the schematics you have for the armors and training rooms would give a 20% increase to your power, whereas her new schematic would increase your power from 30 to 50%. Daiko then says to the others after hearing the system's words, okay, let's go, the technology we are looking for is with her, the ones I have here are only subpar at best. Cairo says, okay, let's go then, can't waste time. They make their way back down to the ground floor as they follow the direction from Canpas's computer to the research center, which seems to be rather hectic at current with people running around. One of the guards tries to stop them, saying, gentlemen, you can't enter the premises, there has been an attack on High Leader Canpas's tower and the building is in lockdown. Daiko looks at Cairo and Zarek as he then pulls out some money he took from the guards he killed before giving it all to him, totaling a few thousand, as he says, sir, I know it's difficult now, but here is some compensation for you for all your hard work. The guard's eyes widen at the sight of the money as he takes it and slides it into his coat pocket, discreetly saying, oh, thank you gentlemen, sorry for the intrusion, you may go in, but please don't cause any trouble. Daiko smirks, patting the man on the back, saying, of course sir, we would never cause trouble to people voluntarily, and thank you again, keep up the good work. As the group began to walk into the building, Cairo says to him, didn't know you were good with people like that. Daiko thinks back to his past life, how he would pay people off and drinking with them to get what he needed, as he replies, Better to be a people person, and since I'm younger I look less threatening than you guys. Zarek smirks at Daiko saying, "You're right, I would have probably killed him or knocked him out at least, but we need to be discreet." Daiko chuckles as he then walks further, getting to reception as he asks, "Hello, we are looking for Dr. Zandra, is she currently in at the moment?" The receptionist, flustered from all the work, manages to look up as she says to Daiko, "Sorry sir, Dr. Zandra is busy right now, if you want you could wait for her in the waiting room." As she points out the room where her office is, showing them where it would be. Daiko thanks the receptionist as he guides the group to the empty room as he tries to sense where the doctor might be, asking the system to search. The system replies, "Host, the doctor is in a sub-basement, you might need to get to an elevator to get to her." Daiko turns to the other two saying, "We have to go to the sub-basement, it seems there is some energy down there, would be where she is," Cairo says, "so we need to take the elevator down then instead of waiting here." Daiko then says, "Yes, we need to head down, but first the Kamaras." Daiko looks for the nearest access panel as he finds one near the restroom as he hacks in and sets the Kamaras on a loop to make it look like nothing changed, giving them limited time. Daiko then directs the group to the elevators as he hacks the panels, allowing them to go straight to the sub-basement as the door opened for them on the floor. Daiko steps out as he says, "Let's find her and get the schematics." Cairo and Zarek nod as they follow Daiko, as it seems he knows where the doctor would be. Daiko asking the system, "Where is the doctor on this floor?" The system searches the floor as it says, "It seems she is in the rear of the floor in a laboratory of sorts working on something, and there seems to security in front." Daiko shakes his head saying to Cairo and Zarek, "I know where Dr. Zandra is, but there is more security and I'm out of money." Zarek grins saying, "I get to knock them out then, don't I?" Cairo looks at his grinning face as he says, "Just don't kill them, knocking out only, we don't need more blood on our hands as is." Daiko then leads them to the laboratory as the guards notice them trying to stop them, as Daiko notices Zarek disappear and gut punches both guards, making them pass out cold. Cairo just looking at Daiko and shrugs saying, "Might as well let him get it out now instead of later, he is like a wound-up child." Zarek turns saying with a scowl, "Hey, I resent that comment, I am no wound-up child, can't help it if my other side has a propensity to act out violence." Daiko shrugs saying, "It's fine both of you, now let's go meet the doctor, shall we?"